Gang, I think I finally figured it out. I think we are not necessarily going to have the screen shift randomly in a few moments. I am going to sit here to test this theory. I want to see how it goes. So prior, my theory was as the countdown timer ran out, it would shift the screen. So now, I mean, honestly, congratulations, because you are all now part of a science experiment. And then we're going to get into the agenda for tonight. We're going to continue. Oh, I got to edit this. I realized we have to continue the SCHD covered strangle comparison, or covered strangle test. That's a big thing for the agenda tonight. All right, it did it. And we didn't switch. I think I finally figured it out. It only took me to now to figure that out. Sometimes it takes me longer. Also, if you guys could see what's in the search bar here, Wardruna, great Nordic style music for those Nordic enthusiasts out there. Probably one of my top bands for that stuff. So check them out. If you don't like Nordic music, then I can't help your soul because you obviously have none. You might be a ginger. And that's also like right before that was like Enoli Choppa. So I listen to everything, but Nordic music is, yeah, it's like soul music. All right, so we'll kill this. What do we have in the background here? Okay. I feel like there's a lot to talk about. We have more stuff from the United Healthcare shooter. I definitely want to talk about that. I am just very entrenched in this whole thing at this point and very interested in seeing the way that it pans out because, well, I don't want to preamble it too much. I want to show you the video that I saw, and then I genuinely am very curious what your opinion is of what I saw. So we'll grab that. I'm going to update this. This will be, oops, didn't want to delete it. This will be this part 2. And then this will be today, which is 10 Ds. Will be for them. And then this will be on YouTube. Okay, so that's all done. What do we have in the chat? We have TCM King, Tommy, Lizzie, Dom Gotti. That's a great fucking name. Zach, Roaring Titty. What up, Roaring Titty? Great to see you. Jeffrey, David. Great to see you as well. David, I hope you're doing well. It's always good to have a wrench in the house. Having the wrench is a big deal, I think. James, super smart, cropping your name down. I was always curious why you had your full name in there. That's always a choice. But, you know, I guess whatever floats your boat. We also have James, Zach. I already said James. We have Zach, Aviator, Doku Doki. That's another fun one. Kind of reminds me of Okie Dokie. I did just book my travel to New York. So I'm going home to see the fam. I got a really cool text from my mom today that I am going to show you because this stuff is very cool to me. I don't know how well this is going to come through. Maybe I'll switch to this quick and then show you guys like this. I don't know how well you can read that, but she's saying, can't wait to go to bed. Thank you once again. So I ordered her a brand new mattress not a couple weeks ago. She said that when she was sleeping that she was waking up kind of hurting and sore. And obviously, as soon as I heard that, I was like, okay, we can fix that. So I went and I got her like some sort of Satva mattress. It's the same brand that we have. I like that mattress a lot, not affiliated with them. But then the really cool part is 2 things. One, I was able to get her like some, I don't want to call old people one, but it's for people that have like aches and pains and shit. But it's a constant reminder of why making money is so fucking cool. That's all there is to it. Like the fact that my mom was able to call me, tell me about a problem, and on the call, I was able to look up a mattress, and then it was just under like $4,000 or something like that for in-home delivery, and like they take the old mattress away. And it's like, especially for her, it's all worth it to me. Like I would move the earth for her. But for people that, like, for example, I know other people that are in a scenario where if their parents called them with that kind of thing, they obviously still love their parents and all that stuff. They would do everything they possibly can to help, but not everybody is in that kind of position to do that kind of thing. So I bring that lesson mostly because it can feel very selfish sometimes, going through the process of trying to create what I call abundance. And abundance is important. Abundance is very important because without abundance, and if you live in constraint, it's much more difficult to do things like that for people without it being a bigger deal. And if it's a bigger deal, that tends to lead to a bunch of other problems, interpersonal issues. This is where people feel like, damn, they should have been more grateful for this because it's a big amount of effort to do whatever you did. So then you want to see a commensurate amount of thankfulness in order to overcome it. All that kind of weird subconscious shit starts to come through. So I bring you this story just as a reminder that the process of building wealth isn't inherently selfish or not selfish. It's whatever you make it out to be. But it's entirely what you choose to do that will make it selfish or not. So don't feel weird about trying to go out and build abundance. Don't feel selfish for doing it. Don't feel like it's wrong or you shouldn't do it. You abso-fucking-lutely should. Anybody who tells you you shouldn't, they should be listened to. They might have a really interesting perspective, but you got to do what's right for you and yours. So that is my TED Talk about mattresses. Apparently, fucking mattresses. I don't know. It comes down to mattresses, but let's grab some news from this fucking United Healthcare shooter thing. Also, fun story. Yesterday, guess what I had for dinner yesterday? Any guesses? Move that here. And let's grab this. A lot of guesses for Mexican. That's a very fair guess. But not Mexican, not B-dubs. Any other guesses? Think about what happened with the United Healthcare shooter dude. Falafel? Nope. Nope. Not buffalo wings, not steak. McDonald's. I had fucking McDonald's last night. As soon as I saw that they caught him at McDonald's, I was just like, yo, I'm gonna give McDonald's a few bucks, support the business for phoning this in. That's when I thought we had the right dude. Now, I don't fucking know. So we'll have to learn a little bit about the news and stuff to see what you guys think about that. But it was a solidarity McDonald's trip. All right, let's see. I want to see if I can find okay. This. No, not this. There was a series of pictures that I wanted to show you. I can't remember where they're from. It was probably from X. I might have to go into X. Let me go into X. This. X, I'm telling you, you could feel whatever you want to feel about X, but you can get a lot of good information off X. Like straight up, you can get good information off X. So here's the dude that got arrested, rocking the orange. There was a very interesting audio clip. I'm going to play this for you guys so that you can hear. It's super difficult to hear. So when you can't hear it, I'll explain it afterwards. It's very difficult to hear, but you guys should be able to hear it through. Let me know when if you can't.
Down.
Oh my God, that's completely out of touch and an insult to the intelligence of the American people and the lived experience.
Really hard to hear, but essentially he said something to the order of completely out of touch. This is an insult to the intelligence of the American people. The interesting thing as I was looking through this was there was a lot of people were talking about this potentially not being the dude because they were holding two different photos side by side, this right here. So there's already the conspiracy theories floating around, which first and foremost, shout out to the conspiracy theories. Everything is a fucking super far out in the ether conspiracy theory until it becomes fucking true. So while I'm not the fastest to adopt conspiracy theories or to go anywhere near as far as most conspiracy theorists will go, I will always fucking listen. I will always listen because I can think through history that like time after time, people that were considered the kooks, the weird guys, were that way until there was a fucking breakthrough. And then all of a sudden they're geniuses, right? There's a fucking fine line between those two groups. And I know that. So when I see something like this, people are saying, well, this photo here is different because he obviously had a bit of a bushy unibrow, that in this photo, you don't see the unibrow. The problem with that is we can see other photos from him, like here, where he actually doesn't have the unibrow. We can see other photos, older photos from him, like here, where he doesn't have a unibrow. So it's not reasonable to compare one photo to come up with one conclusion from this kind of thing. Now, it is super important to identify that there is a difference between these, right? Like there should be the process of casting some level of doubt. There should be the process of questioning, but this still seems like this fucking same dude to me. Now, there's a couple other things. I think it might be in this one. No, there's another one in here somewhere that talks about, let me see if I can find it. I also do have to say that, I mean, I've been trying to, grow my social media presence, to grow to the YouTube channel, to grow our community and all that kind of stuff. And this guy went from like 500 followers to over 300,000. So, what the fuck am I doing wrong? Apparently. Joke. It's a giant joke. Everybody relax. It's just a fucking joke. I don't see the other thing that I wanted to show you guys. There was another thing in here somewhere. And it talks a lot about the dude's background because so much of this is very strange to me. Is it this? No. See if I can find it for you guys at some point. Yeah, this is a great question here. So this person, I don't know this person, but this person says, so you mean to tell me this guy escaped on a rental bike and evaded capture by the NYPD and FBI for a week, and now he is found in a McDonald's and had all the damning evidence with him, the mask, jacket, backpack, pew-pew quieter, which is obviously the can, the suppressor, and the manifesto. And he's an Ivy League grad. No effing way, I'm not buying it. Who is this handler? Check his bank account. Like, again, a little bit of a leap, but it's a great question. It is literally a great question. Because as we've been covering this thing over the last few days, you've heard me talk about a few elements of what I saw that made no fucking sense whatsoever. No fucking sense. To go through some of the effort to do what he did, quote, like quasi the correct way, or the effective way, I guess I should say. And then to have other elements that are just so disgustingly off and just not aligned at all, it does beg a question. It does beg a question. Now, I don't know what it means, or literally the person could just be kind of fucking stupid. Like, that can be a thing. This is another thing we do in America way too frequently. I don't know about other countries, definitely here, is the appeal to authority is massive. As soon as somebody sees that somebody else has a undergrad degree, a grad degree, a PhD. Everybody thinks that that person is like super smart. And it's not necessarily the case. That's not the inverse. It's not to say that if you have a PhD, you're dumb. It's not that either. There's just always a gamut. But I definitely remember, even as I was going through my grad degree, thinking there are a lot of people here that I wouldn't trust with basic instructions to do something, but they're continuing down the path of school because that's what they want to do for X, Y, and Z reasons. There is always a spectrum, even for people that go through high-level education. It's just continued educational rigor. So all of that aside, going to school of some sort doesn't inherently make you smart. Not going to school doesn't inherently make you dumb. There's a fucking spread like literally everything else. All of that being said, there's a lot of quirky things about this that I would really, really, really like to see fleshed out. Because, for example, when he did go to the McDonald's with the backpack, with his shit, and then he like pulls out his laptop and he's like sitting there at McDonald's just working on the laptop. I mean, make that make sense to me, please. Make that make sense to me. By this point in time, he fucking knows that everybody knows his name at this point. They know that he's a person of interest. He knows that people are looking for him. How does that make a monicum of fucking sense at all? It doesn't. So that's fucking weird. Again, I don't know exactly what it means, but it's super weird. Royington, he says he went to get caught. He was posting his YouTube videos, which got taken down. The problem is that going to get caught, it like just go turn yourself in, right? That doesn't mean anything. Like, why go do it there? Why even leave if you're going to get caught? Why not just stay there? There's just a lot of very interesting questions. I don't disagree with you that he might have wanted to get caught for sure, right? That's what that activity might indicate, logically so. But there's so many additional questions that would, James says that would have detracted from the statement. I don't think so. I don't think that would detract from the statement at all. Because if you think about it, when he finished the job, the world wasn't talking about this statement at all. Everyone was just talking about the fact that the dude is, deranged, weird, all this kind of stuff. Royington, he says, but he's trying to make a point. He thinks he's a martyr or something. I don't disagree with trying to make a point. That's for sure. There's no doubt about him trying to make a point. Completely agree with that. That's why you go through the effort of carving the casings. That's why you write a manifesto. Absolutely. No debate whatsoever that he's trying to make a statement. All I'm saying is that the process that he went through to get captured doesn't make fucking sense. That's the thing. Zachariah says, what world wasn't talking about the statement? I mean, I've not even seen the statement. Have you? I've been looking. I tried to find it the other day on the live stream with you guys. I couldn't find the fucking statement. Ian says, in this way, getting caught at McD is a specific scenario that makes people even further analyze it all, making them dive into his point. Yeah. Okay, so now the manifesto's out. That's great. So let's read that, because I have been wanting to see that for a while now. Let's see what this says. McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. So fucking weird. Is this the whole thing? Here we go. Yeah, the fact that you can't find this without specifically looking up is kind of nuts, to be honest. Is this it? This is the whole thing? I thought it would have been more. I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone This was fairly trivial, some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. The spiral notebook, if present, has some straggling notes and a to-do list that illuminate the gist of it. Tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so it's probably not much info there. I do apologize for any strife of traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming, which is hilarious because there was only one parasite. A reminder, the US is the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world. We rank 42 in life expectancy. US is the largest company in the US by market cap, only behind Apple, Google, Walmart. Grown and grown, but how's our life expectancy? No, well, our life expectancy has grown. Literally doesn't make any fucking sense. Of course it's grown. No, the reality is these blank have gotten too powerful. I do agree with that. And they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has always allowed them to get away with it. Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have space. And frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. But many have illuminated the corruption and greed decades ago, and the problems simply remain. It is not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I'm the first to face it with such brutal honesty. What a fucking idiot. It's so fucking stupid. There are elements of this I completely agree with, but the approach and the conclusions are fucking dumb. So fucking dumb. Okay. Ian says, if I did a crime and turned myself in, A to B simple, but if I did a crime, got caught in the most absurd way, you'd further question motives and intentions, draw deep curiosity and audience. I mean, I just completely disagree with that in the element of it's not a or B decision point, in my opinion. Like, it's in no way an A or B decision point. So the choices he had, and people do this all the time in arguments, and I never understand why people just entrench between binary choices. The choice he had wasn't choice A, get caught at the scene, or choice B, go somewhere obscure and get caught a week later. Right? He had unlimited choices. Edward Snowden, fantastic fucking example. If you want to talk about the ability to continue making a statement, guess what you do? You do what Snowden did. You get the fuck out. You start doing podcasts because now you are insanely infamous, doing excessive care to take care of your identity, as Snowden did. And then you continue to promulgate your message. The idea that those are again, like, just don't lock yourself into two scenarios, because there's not. There's no fucking rules, clearly. There's no rules to any of this. This stuff can be whatever it's going to be. And there's a lot of choices. I noticed people do that in debates and arguments. When I say arguments, I mean healthy arguments, not like ad hominem attacking, but like the exchange of ideas. And I notice people do that all the time, where they like default to this or that. And I always find that to be a weakness in terms of an argument. Yeah, because especially something like this, there's a million different ways to go about it. But yeah, I mean, like, this kind of stuff is interesting, right? So let's take a look at that. Health care cost by country. Let's see what this gives us. This health expenditure. Six. So it's, yeah, I mean, it's light years ahead. What does this tell me? Health expenditure per capita. Look at that. straight at the top. Ian says, it definitely draws our attention and minds curiosity, giving them voice writings. Yeah, I agree with all that. Yep, I agree. And Ian says, which is amplifying the message in some way, perhaps. Completely. I'm completely agree with that. Even when I knew that I was pulling up his manifesto, is insignificant as my YouTube channel is, it still is amplifying the overall platform and the argument. So zero debate about that. Again, I'm just going back to the original, the original point, right? Because this is another thing people do is we bounce between components. So the original point that I had made was simply that getting arrested at a McDonald's in Altoona is fucking bizarre. And I don't think that inherently increases his message or the spread of his message as compared to the litany of other things that he could have done instead. That's all. But I don't disagree with you on that element, literally at all. So yeah, this is, I see all those details now. So let's see, lifespan by country. Because here's the other trick, I think, and it's not even covered in this, is lifespan and health span. There's a big difference between lifespan and health span. And US is 48. Look at us go. 79. Hong Kong, Japan. A lot of this is about genetics, for sure. And I think that's a lot of times why you'll see people with different kinds of Asian influence living much longer lives than a lot of other places. This is not surprising to me at all. Even down to their frames. The fact that it's the same thing with dogs. There's a reason why small dogs tend to live longer than big dogs. So if you look at just straight from a size of human perspective, this is actually part of this. I've been fascinated by this stuff for a long time. I spent a lot of time reading about this kind of stuff out of sheer curiosity. We know the Mediterranean diet is super, super healthy for you. So no surprise to see Italy, Spain, Malta, like those kinds of places. So yeah, very cool to me. But yeah, 79 is still much higher than what it was 20 years ago, for sure. Aviator says most Americans are overweight equals more medical costs. Yeah, and the obesity problem is a massive problem. Obesity is a huge problem in America. We've made food too accessible, too easy to get, and people have a hard time putting the fucking fork down. Travel says life expectancy is also different from quality of life. Yeah, exactly. That's the variance that I refer to as health span. Lifespan and health span are different things. Peter Attia is the one who really talks about that idea. Well, at least he's promoting it more widely. But health span and lifespan are two different things. But yeah, I mean, the point that he made, the point that he made about this is our life expectancy has grown. So like that is a thing. But again, I don't think that it's necessarily representative of health span. Zachariah says almost like the food is addictive. I agree with that. I do think the food industry has definitely found ways to get people to eat more, but I will always advocate for everybody's individual agency. Even if the food is very addictive, you can control yourself. That's it. It's a fucking choice. It is a fucking choice. Now, again, everybody likes to throw out the arguments of, there's health problems, there's thyroid issues. Sure. For people that have medical problems, it's different. They have to go through a different route to manage their weight still. They still can manage their weight, but it's just a bigger challenge for them, which is part of the unfairness of life. Like right now, I got a bitch ass L4, L5, and sitting down is super, super annoying. So I have a disadvantage in the L4, L5 disc region. Royentity says, ironically, the health industry is partly to blame for the poor health of Americans, with all the Americans that make you fat and doctors not diagnosing or treating. I agree with that. I also think for some of those to build onto that are the incentives of medicine, right? So, because we can see what was it? You guys were showing, we were looking at it yesterday. Aetna or whatever was starting to try to charge by like fucking whatever the anesthesia usage. Like, that's crazy. So a lot of times the incentive does not align well at all. If you think from a medical industry, the incentive is for them to continue interacting with you so that they can plug in more codes so that they can run the money up. So yeah. Sakurai says, nah, sometimes you're in an institution that limits choices. Again, limits choices is different. You can have limited choices. You still have fucking choice. I don't know why people prefer to like view themselves as victims. It really is confounding to me. It's one of the least empowering positions I think a human being can take, that of a victim. And it's no surprise to me that people that tend to take that position struggle in a lot of different forms of their life. Because if you don't learn to take responsibility for what you can affect, despite what the external circumstances are, you're going to be a product of the fucking circumstances. So I don't disagree with you that there are conditions that can limit or present different choices, but the individual still ultimately has a choice. And taking this back to food, even for the people that are on, for example, Zachariah says victim doesn't know they're a victim. They believe they chose it by free will. I can't agree with that because that's a victim mindset, right? Somebody can objectively, it doesn't take somebody super smart to sit down for a couple minutes and say, maybe I can afford McDonald's because I did get McDonald's last night and it's super cheap. McDonald's is very cheap. So we can go grab McDonald's because it's cheap food, cheap calories. Or we can go to the grocery store and we can still find equally cheap food, cheap calories. It just requires more effort and it doesn't always taste as good. But it's a fucking choice. Travel says we do not have a choice if we are lied to. We buy what is available and we do not, we buy what is available and we do not know it is poisoned. There are a lot of things available to you. You don't have to buy fast food. Let's even take a bigger step back. Even if you can only afford fast food, you don't have to get fat. You don't have to get fat. You just have to control yourself. So if you're doing, and we can even talk about this scenario where somebody isn't necessarily super smart, a planner, where they're thinking this meal has 3,000 calories. I didn't move that much today. I probably don't need 3,000 calories. We can just put that aside and we can go through the basics of trial and error. If I'm getting McDonald's things for breakfast because it's cheap, lunch and dinner, just because it's cheap, and I notice that when I look down, I have more visceral fat on my stomach. You can see it. You still have eyes. There's no choice in your eyes. They're fucking there. You can feel it. You can feel it when you walk around. You jiggle when you move. In that scenario, you could say, how is this happening? It's a basic equation of calories in, calories out. This isn't to talk about the rest of the health issues, high blood pressure, all that stuff is different based on a lot of food availability. But the subsequent choice to eat to the point of obesity is undoubtedly a personal fucking choice. Nobody is putting the fork in your mouth or the food down your throat. It is a choice. Travel says it's not just fast food. Our vegetables, fruits, and meat have been corrupted with chemicals. Don't disagree. I literally don't disagree at all. But again, even with that as the case, that doesn't have to lead to obesity. Again, this is the problem when we have healthy debates and arguments, is we start dancing around. The original point we were talking about is obesity, which is literally a fucking nationwide epidemic that we have. Obesity, not the byproducts of us having tons of microplastics in our bodies or the different chemicals that I don't disagree with you at all. The fact that there's stuff in our food that other countries have straight up fucking banned. Like, no disagreements about any of that or the impacts of some of those foods, especially if they don't know. But back to the process of obesity, that is personal agency. You have choice. That's all there is to it, man. You have choice. You can make what choices you might want. Zacharias says, so why are Mediterraneans having better quality of life than Americans if we're supposed to have access to all this information? Because one of the things that America does is it has a slight problem with the way that we prime people. If you go to other countries like Mediterranean countries and whatnot, you'll actually find that things like what we call fat shaming, to talk to somebody about them being overweight and as a society to pressure them out of being overweight, leads to outcomes. There are other pieces to it. I'm not saying that are good or bad. What I'm saying is that they're very, very different in cultures, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. Also, the quality of the food. There's no doubt that better quality of food, more movement is another big thing. So when you look at places like Mediterranean countries, you'll find people tend to have more labor-intensive jobs. The population itself tends to move more. In America, lots of people don't move that much. So it's a really complex issue that I'm not even going to begin to pretend like I know much about at all. But at a surface level, I can definitely tell you those elements because I've been to a lot of those places. So yeah, I think it's just a really, really fascinating series of problems for sure. Daniel says, this is dumb, stick to options. I like talking about this stuff with you guys. I learn more from you guys. I learned that this was out by talking about off-topic things. I have an opportunity to talk about and learn from you guys with respect to what the current health span, lifespan is. If you don't like that, then fucking leave, bro. I don't give a shit. I like options, and trading is a big part of my life. But I am naturally curious about the world. Everything about what we do, what's around us interests me. And a lot of people in the chat have, in my opinion, a lot of really great perspectives. So even the elements now that we're debating back and forth, I don't look at this as like I'm trying to prove somebody else wrong. I don't care. And I don't feel like they're trying to do that with me either. I feel like it's an exchange of ideas, which is really, really useful. So especially when it comes to the discussion around like health, lifespan, health span, because if you think about all that stuff, it all zooms out literally into market impact. So if you think about the fact that health span is generally increasing, that as this points out that we found leads to really, really high spending on health. So then you can literally take this kind of very, very basic information and you can come up with trade ideas based on it. Daniel says sugar is more addictive than cocaine. I don't know if it's more addictive than cocaine, but I completely agree. I completely agree that sugar can be insanely addictive. Completely. Yeah. It's actually one of the funniest things whenever we travel and we don't really drink soda. I just think it's an easy thing to avoid drinking. There's not really a big reason to drink soda. But whenever we go to other countries, I'll always look at like the size of their cups compared to our cups. And another thing that I think most people know what I'm getting at here is not only do we put a bunch of stuff in our food and whatnot, but the US, we run with massive jumbo, ultra size everything. There was a cup at like 7-Eleven that's like 70 ounces almost, like 64 ounces, which is crazy. Absolutely crazy. Roaring Titty says, I think you're being pretty judgy. I understand your perspective, but I think you're not seeing it from others' perspectives. Oh, I fully understand the other perspectives. The thing is, like, there's nothing that people said here that doesn't make sense to me. The broader impact, though, again, is that I will always try to reinforce individual agency. I think that's so important. Individual agency. Even people, there's a really great, this is a really, really great book. Yeah, David says, with refills, no doubt. I actually got to find that. Hold on. 7-Eleven cup sizes. Yeah, yeah, bro. Look at this. Roaring Titty says, you're picking it apart in a logical way, not the way other people feel it. Ah, that's a difference. And I agree with you. I am going to apply logic to all of these positions. Feelings are what they are. I would never deny somebody's feelings. But when we're talking about topics like this, especially with like quantifiable things like obesity, it is not about feelings. It's about things that we can clearly identify. The fact that I can go get a Team Gulp, which is a gallon-sized jug of soda from 7-Eleven, or the Double Gulp, or the Extreme Gulp. Extreme Gulp, 52 ounces. Roaring Titty says the problem is psychological. I agree with that. I think it's definitely part psychological for sure. Like, I assume you're still talking about obesity. And I do agree with that because it also becomes habitual. There's a lot of elements that go into it. There's people that have different kind of psychological disorders that then lead to escapism via food. Yeah, there's tons of shit that can lead into using food for that kind of crutch. One of the things I noticed about myself was interesting enough was fucking like boredom eating. I imagine being so well off and so well positioned that you have a choice to eat because you're bored. I remember when I was driving around in Tanzania, Africa, and these dudes were eating fucking snakes off the side of the road. I actually had some. It genuinely was not bad. It wouldn't be my choice though. And it like, I just remember sitting there thinking to myself, like, I would open up the fridge and I'd be like, I'm not fucking hungry. Why am I in here? That's actually why I started purposefully intermittent fasting, to be way more intentional about when I feed, so that it's not just something that I'm doing because you're supposed to wake up, have breakfast, then you're supposed to eat lunch midday. I literally was just like, no, I'm going to force myself to not eat. And for a while, not eating, especially for somebody like me that has a pretty high physical output, is really taxing. Because I remember I would like go play pickleball for a few hours and then afterwards, I'd be kind of fucked up afterwards. And like, but over time, my body started to adapt to it. So that's just me sharing a story about how I identify with what you're sharing. It can become habitual. It can be something that is just, yeah, rooted in a lot of different things. I completely agree. Zachariah says, so logically, how many people in the US don't have access to fresh produce? I don't know the answer to that. We can see. Fresh produce, again, isn't the only thing to lead to a healthy life, just to be clear. But I am interested in that question. Let's see. I don't even know, how would you guys frame that for like a Google? What do you guys think? Like US access to fresh produce or something like that? Let's just see what comes up with that. US access to fresh produce. Let's just see what that comes up with. There's got to be like a better, I don't know if there's like a per capita maybe? Per capita? In 2023, the per capita availability of, I think that's going to be a tough, who was that? I think it was Zachariah that brought it up. it's a really great question. I don't know how to get like a good answer, because we can look at consumption and stuff like that, but I don't think that answers the main thing that you're highlighting, which is like, is it easy for people to drive to the grocery store and to get like fresh produce? Which I don't know the answer to that. Genuinely don't. I do know most grocery stores do have fresh produce of some sort. So I guess the way that if I had to try to proxy answer it is I would look at the next question I asked is like, what is the US population within a certain radius of a grocery store? So what is the US population within a 10-mile radius of a grocery store? According to ArcGIS Story Maps, 92% of the U.S. population is within a 10-minute drive of a grocery store. However, the USDA estimates 17.4% of the population live in low-income areas that are more than 10 miles from the supermarket. So 17% of the population in that case I would find would be disadvantaged for sure. These areas are known as food deserts. They are particularly prevalent in urban areas. Yep. So for a smaller minority of the population, this clearly is a bit of a problem. And then one last thing on this, and then I want to pivot to the covered strangle test and whatnot, is U.S. population obesity. Because I'm genuinely curious. I don't know what the latest is. Jesus. Oh my God. In 2021 and 23, 40% of adults were obese. Fuck. The other interesting thing about this, I actually think right now, technically, I'm obese. Well, it depends on, I don't even know how they're calculating obesity. I don't know if they're doing like fat calipers, but I think if you do a standard BMI test, I'm considered obese. Fascinating. Really interesting conversation. Thank you guys a lot for sharing your perspectives with me and introducing me to some data that we had a chance to look at together. As I said, especially for like these kinds of videos, which is specifically the trader hangout, part of this is literally designed just to throw ideas around, talk about life, the world, what we see, because I think this enriches hopefully everybody. Like everybody has some more information to at least swirl around in their brains. I always learn a lot when I have a chance to literally look this stuff up, because that's a big thing is I don't like purporting some random shit that I think I heard or I might feel. I try to find actual data to take a look at it out of curiosity. So thank you all. Very, very interesting. I think we have to take a look at that double gulp real fast though. Damn. Fuck. Look at this fucking thing. That's huge. It's $1.79. Oh my God. Massive. Oh, one other story on this, actually, as I was thinking about it. We were in Colorado Springs and we were leaving the next day. This is when we were like house hunting. We stopped at a gas station and I wanted to get a Red Bull because it's actually, as far as energy drinks, I can trace most of the ingredients. It's not good for you. There's no doubt. I'm not saying it's good for you. It isn't. But I drink them once in a while. So I was grabbing a Red Bull and they had a thing that said it's like 2 for 1. And oh no, I think it was like grab 2, you get 3. And it was the smaller ones. So I was grabbing 2 because I wanted 2 of them, 1 for that day and then 1 for the next day. And funny enough, I went up to the register. The dude was ringing us out And he was just like, oh, he's like, the Red Bulls are 2 for 3. You can go grab another one. I was just like, oh yeah, no, I saw that. Thanks, man. I'm good. That dude took the biggest pause on planet Earth. It was like, it felt like an eternity. It was straight up like 10 seconds. He looked at the register. He like looked at the Red Bulls. He looked at the register. He looked back at me and he was just like, yeah, it's free though. It was like, yeah, bro, I get that. Thank you. I don't need 3 Red Bulls. Like 2 is good. And I was like, do you want the third one? Like you can have the extra one. And he was shocked that you can have access to a free thing and not take it. That goes back to this, right? And the point about personal agency is just because you can get the double mega uber gulp doesn't mean you have to fucking get it. Even if it's cheaper than this one. Maybe if it's cheaper, I probably would get it and I would just fill it up commensurate with the other one. But if it's cheaper on a per ounce basis, let's say, you don't have to grab it. Tommy says World of Abundance don't need free stuff. That's exactly correct. That is literally exactly correct. Because I knew exactly what I wanted for the time frame that I needed. And interestingly enough, that is absolutely a byproduct of being fortunate enough to create enough abundance where you start to escape a little bit of the scavenger mindset. Because I can 100% tell you 20-year-old Eric would have grabbed that third Red Bull and found a use for it. I either would have drank it, I would have given it to a friend, I would have found a use for it. But at that point, I just didn't need it. Travel says that's like eating everything on your plate to not waste, like treating your body like garbage. Yeah, that's an interesting one too. Because I really used to feel like I know that feeling very, very well. Feeling some type of way about like getting something. Because another thing that I found specifically was when I would order, when we would go out to eat or something, there would be something that I wanted to try, but I wouldn't get it because I was like, well, if I don't like it, I don't want to throw it out. It's not even so much the paying for it. I feel weird throwing it out. So normally what I'll do now is I'll let the waiter know if I want to get something to try because I don't know what it is. I literally would tell them like, hey, could you ask the kitchen to do like a smaller portion for this? And if I like it, I'll ask for the other portion, but I just don't want to waste it in case I don't like it. But that never occurred to me for a long time either, which is really interesting. The perspective changes when you have access to stuff, but that double gulp is a fucking thing. Let me tell you. That's crazy. That is a bucket. All right. Later, nerd. Get rid of that guy. All right. So a couple other things that I do want to hit. James says, what are your thoughts on Israel moving towards Syria? That's another really interesting one from a geopolitical perspective. Syria. So for those that don't know, Bashar al-Assad overthrown, rebels took hold, and it looked like it was going to be a relatively smooth transition for these kinds of things, I guess, as far as you could consider it that. And it does look like there's going to be some friction involved. So Israel is typically in a really difficult spot when it comes to where they are. I'm not talking about if you're pro-Israel, pro other people, not talking about any of that stuff because I can see all positions on that. But they are surrounded by a lot of people who think differently than they do. So that inherently causes some problems for them. So they tend to be a little bit more aggressive than other things. I think we need to see how it develops. That's because I was reading the news about that, actually a couple updates, and I think we need to see how it goes. It's early, but I find it interesting. Braintity says, can you add my question on the spreadsheet? Of course. What's your question? How to stay focused and not get distracted? Yeah, of course. We can absolutely include that for you. Insert shift down and how to stay focused. Ultra. Cool. Yeah, happy to add that one on. Cool. So let's take a look. I want to run through GameStop earnings super fast and then SoFi, and then we'll do the SCHD covered Strangle. But just a final note, like genuinely, thank you guys for talking to me about that stuff. We have a lot of people in here. That's one of the really cool things about our community, trading in general, and markets, is everybody is going to have their own perspective formed by all of their personal experiences that lead to who they are and what they believe in. And that's why when other people will say things that I may think differently about, I'll share how I think differently, but I always respect the individual person's position on things, because all of our ideas are going to be formed based on our own experiences. So thank you guys for just throwing some ideas around, having a pretty interesting, diverse conversation about a lot of stuff that does impact large groups of people. Very cool. And we also, just a shout out to you guys to cap that off, kept it super respectful. Like it didn't devolve into anything nasty. That's a difficult thing to find. I don't know if you guys probably know that, but that's a difficult thing to find, especially with 60 plus people in here, because that kind of stuff can easily devolve into people getting upset, being mean towards other people, which is, unfortunate, because then that really stifles the exchange of ideas and information. So thank you all also for being respectful in the conversation. I think that's very cool. All right, so let's move this out of the way for now. And Oracle, I don't know if you guys saw, they had an okay earnings, but they beat on EPS. They had some soft guidance, and that led to what you see here. Right now, they're trading at they closed at 177. So they had a bit of a gap down on the day, 6.67% down, which was a pretty meaningful drop for this on the day basis. All right, let's grab now SoFi and down a little bit more here. So SoFi, we talked a little bit about SoFi previously, and I wanted to just touch on it again quickly, because SoFi, I still think looks good longer term, but this drawdown is steepening a little bit, enough that I absolutely am glad that I took my exit, and we'll maintain the exit until we start to see a relative pop back in the direction. Same thing with something like APP. Very glad I got out of here. APP was a great trade, and this has been one of the better trades that I've had on the year. This literally concludes the position, at least for now. And what I'll do is what you guys see me typically do, which is set new alerts like this, and we'll monitor it. So if it starts to look healthy again, then that's cool. But right now it does not look healthy. It looks like it's in the middle of a pretty big correction, as a lot of things do. The way I view the market right now is a little bit tentative. Like even this, I still have the position on longer term in Lunar, but there's a good chance, depending on how this goes tomorrow, that I start scrubbing some of the position off. It's sitting in decent profit. And that's the other thing I was realizing, is I'm actually probably going to take some of the really long-term part of the trade down and deploy a shorter-term component. I'll leave an element of the longer-term trade on. It's like 400 plus days. Let that go. But I'll size that way, 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 way down. And then I'll use the rest of the capital that's allocated to the trade to run shorter term trend following stuff, so that I'm not necessarily bouncing in and out of these really, really long-term options. But Today was another day that marked, oh, let me take a look, that marked a bit of activity. And it's just trying to position as the market is moving here. I did add more into UPro. Yeah, today was like 38 trades. So not excessive. My NVIDIA ratio call diagonal is doing terribly. This is sucking wind hardcore. But this is also something that's much longer term as an idea. This right now is slated for out in 192 days from now. So still tons and tons of time. So this will be left alone unless that there's, again, like this here, like a very clear, decisive change of direction, which would be noted by a close below here. If it looks like we're going to get a close below 132, then it is time to bounce. But I'm not thinking we're going to roll that way necessarily. It looks like we still might be okay. It looks like the broader trend is still somewhat intact, although it absolutely is starting to cause some concern and break apart, in my opinion. So this is still generally okay, but it is getting to the point where it's going to have to start making some choices on whether or not it's feeling like a bigger pullback. The interesting part is NVIDIA seems generally well positioned here. It had a good earnings, so this does seem a little problematic that it's rolling over like this post this earnings. So we might have to take this one on the chin. It will be a TBD scenario. Now, I do have short calls out against it as I'm looking at this, and I probably need to ramp those up. Yeah. I think that's the move here. Because right now, I have like a 1-to-4 ratio. So I'm very, very light on the short calls. So that might be something I need to take a look at tomorrow, is adding some more. Harvey says, Eric, how do you find these stocks to swing trade from the very bottom base? There's a bunch of different scans that I do. That's actually one of the bigger things that we end up doing on most of the pro live streams, is just running through a bunch of different scans. That's one of the more time consuming components of finding those kinds of things. Cause like this is an example of getting the timing completely wrong. But yeah, I spent a lot of time looking for stuff that appears like it's going to start moving. So I'm looking for stuff with certain kind of consolidation patterns, good earnings, volume expanding. I want to see linear regression channels, standard deviation channels, whichever, upward sloping. I like to see stuff that's slightly higher ADR or ATR for movement, because the specific kind of change that I was just showing you in like APP, that's really designed to be shorter term, playing momentum. Same thing with like Lunar, same thing with like Rocket Lab, same thing with like SOFI. All those current grower names are really designed to be traded, for me at least, from a breakout perspective here. Because yeah, right now, like back to SOFI, this doesn't look bad. I still think it might look fine if it can begin to like resume this trend, but it's just not there right now. So with something like this, I'll take my exit, and then I will roll back into it as I need. And then APP, it's the same thing. Like I ended up getting into this on like the 11th. The chart looks fucked right now because of just how parabolic this move was. But this was the same exact style setup as a lot of the other things that I'll look at. This just happened to be kicking off at a really weird time. I could see institutional sponsorship coming into it, perceived extended institutional sponsorship. So I've been trading SOFI for a few months now, but this is still a relatively short-term trade. So I had gotten into it on the 11th and fully exited as of yesterday on the close, 9th of December. So a few months. And this was a slightly longer term hold for me. For these kinds of things, it's all based on whatever the underlying chooses to do while I'm in it. For example, another great example is Bill. Our friend Bill. which I exited on. And I talked to you guys about that. I had exited Bill, and Bill has been something I've moved in and out of several times, but I play it on the same kind of breakout move. And we were out of here on the 9th. As soon as we broke below here, that's where we took our exit. And we'll keep an eyeball and we'll see how it goes. So this strategy is really designed to capture stuff like that, and specifically to use options to amplify the move. That's the cool part about options, is you don't. So the crazy part about options is like APP. This had a insane move. It's gone from 90 to over $400. If you trade that with equity, that's a great move. If you trade that with options, it's a wild move because of the leverage that they afford. So I use options to amplify these kinds of moves. The downside to using options in them, though, is that you can't always get the whole move. You can't always get into the correct stuff, because some of the things that move like this don't even have options, or the options are so illiquid you can't get it done. But yeah, that's the general idea. So let's take a look at GameStop earnings quick. I have a video that I'll drop in here that kind of runs through the majority of it from end to end. I just wanted to highlight a couple other things that stuck out to me for GameStop specifically. And the earnings right now is still, looks like it's settled kind of in the mid 27s. So that's good. When I was making the video, it, interestingly enough, was starting to tailor off a bit, but not excessively so. And it beat, but I think everybody that had a calculator knew that it was going to come in slightly positive on an EPS perspective, because of the interest income that they just weren't necessarily including in their expectations. I don't actually know why they didn't, to be honest, but you kind of see that they didn't for some reason. And so the move here, I think overall pretty expected. I thought the main thing I was really hoping to see was any shred of evidence of other internal movements occurring that I didn't pick up. And what I mean by that is I wanted to see if we saw any activity hinting at from the finances here that could show them spreading into a new line of business, anything like that. And I didn't see that yet. The main thing that we can see is they're holding a massive pile of cash, which is great. Them having a lot of cash gives them choices. But as I said on the video earlier, they're not a bank. They're not designed to just have cash and hold cash. You have to do something with the cash. And the timing that they raised the cash, my guess, was based more on the stock price movement. The reason why that's relevant is because if it's based more on the stock price movement than them really wanting to raise cash for a certain reason, it means then they might not have whatever lined up that they're trying to break into that we just don't know yet, which I just don't know yet. But I didn't see any investments going out that indicated that they're expanding into different lines of business. I didn't see anything like that. We talked about in the video that they talked no more at the markets, at least for now, I think until next year. So that's not to say that they're going to do it next year. It's just until the next earnings cycle comes up. So we get a bit of a reprieve from that side of stuff, which is great. I am very curious where they go now. Royentity says there was a line item about marketable securities or something like that. I think they're a holding company technically. Yeah, we looked at that before. I think their configuration is likely due to some other reasons. But I think my guess is with that cash that they're looking to invest it into something and to expand the business, because that's what's logical for that kind of cash pile. They can make good interest income off of it. But unfortunately, interest income isn't the basis for the business. So Roy Clady says they didn't foresee any more share offerings this fiscal, no commitment to not do one. Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about. RT says, yeah, what did Paper City said? Wonder what they invested. Hold on. What about the 20 mil investment in tradable securities? That's kind of like a drop in the bucket. I don't know what that is. That literally can be bonds. It can be a bunch of different things. But 20 mil, that's not a business. That's a really, really small thing. So I don't know what that is in, but 20 million for something like that is, I don't really think, it's nothing that I'm reading into. I obviously would just gloss over that. Could be pleasantly surprised. That would be great. But I don't see anything in it. 20 mil is pretty cheap. So I don't think that that's them grabbing into like another company or anything like that. Let's see if there's anything else that sticks out to me. Liabilities going down is great. So accounts payable pulled down massively. Didn't they go through a series of closures? Ryan Clady says, yeah, I'm highlighting that they didn't commit to no share offering. If it runs to 80 again, I'd bet they'd do it. I don't think they would. If it ran to 80 again in the next quarter, I think that they might do it eventually. They also can't be overly laissez-faire about dilution. So while it's not like a free money glitch, there's definitely an impact through, again, what level of dilution we consider it, because it's an at the market versus other stuff. I don't want to get too far into that, but it does change the financial structure of the company slightly. So with that element, I don't think that when they say that they don't foresee doing it, because again, when you're raising cash, you're typically raising cash for an idea. You don't just keep raising cash for the sake of raising cash. It doesn't actually help you that much. So my guess is even if it ran to 80, they probably wouldn't do it because they're already sitting on enough cash to do probably whatever they could possibly want to do with it. The process now is just what do they want to do with it, which I genuinely have no idea. I would love to know, but I don't. So overall, pretty solid earnings. Like I thought that this was decent. I think their sales troubled me a little bit. Sales coming down here was a bit of a bummer. The cost of sales came down, not quite commensurately, but pretty damn close, which is also great. So that's typically good to see that at least we're not paying more for less sales. So yeah, I mean, it looks fine, but I go back to the same thing I've said a few times, just as far as the company goes. I do think like they got to do something. They have to do something. And I just am so interested to know what it is, because they're sitting on a lot of cash. The company itself is still hanging in there, but we do know that the brick and mortar stores have their challenges. They're going through a lot of closures. So they're in the process of a pivot. And if I had to guess, they're gonna talk about what they're looking to do as their plan solidifies a little bit more. I don't view them as right now flying blind and just kind of seeing whatever happens. My guess is there's a lot of work going on in the background that they're not ready to talk about yet from a strategic perspective. And I would surmise that when those details start to come out will be when it's a bit more solidified, whatever it is. Just don't know yet. So really interesting. Cool. Let's now move on to our covered Strangle test. Not this one. Is it this one that we're doing? Nope, not this one. I think we just added it down here. Yeah, we added it. Nope, this isn't it. This one. Let us go into our time machine. Let's grab SPY. And we should be on the right date, 3 Jan. Yeah. Which is where I think we left. Oh, no, 21 Feb. Why does it default to that? 21 Feb. And we should be in 2020. 21 Feb here. And then I got to get my dinner order going. Except I have no idea what's for dinner. Oh, boy. I'm going to see if Mel wants something because nothing's jumping at me. Also, if you guys didn't know, I'm not affiliated with these guys, but I found a phone case that's really, really cool that I like a lot. If you guys haven't seen these. So I really prefer just the naked phone, but I don't like putting the naked phone down like on the cameras because that's what sticks out on the back, right? When you put your phone down, I don't like that. So this thing literally just snaps on the back. So it's still essentially naked phone vibe, but it has a little thing on the back so that when you put it down, you're good. I really like. Welcome to my product TED Talk. Here we go. We are 21 Feb. We're in SPY. And if you'll recall, the last series of adjustments that we made, I walked you through verbally what kind of adjustments I would have made that I didn't do because I'm purposefully making this more difficult for me. Like that is the truth. There are some changes that I would have made already that I haven't, and it is by design. So right now we have 814 shares at 326, which is 269K. And again, if you don't remember, we made essentially a comparison between SPY and SCHD, and then we came up with the price equivalent of $50,000. If we had $50,000 to trade in SCHD, what would the equivalent look like in SPY when it was at 337? And the whole point of all of this is so that we can get a SCHD proxy, because SCHD had that really weird options chain thing. I've emailed them a bunch of times about it. It's the most annoying thing on earth. When you go to SCHD, it does this. So really the stock is actually trading around 19 and change. When you go into the options chain, it's going to have everything based off of this 5822 handle. So it's just unbelievably annoying that it's so frustrating because it's such a cool thing that they have, and it completely breaks down because it doesn't fucking like it. This decreases quite literally the usability of the thing, which is very annoying. So anyways, I'm going to, where did we leave off? Did we have stuff on? Yeah. So we have 8 and 5. So we're good here. So this stays. And now we fast forward. Now, because I still have like another 20 minutes or so, actually Mel hasn't responded. So I'm just going to send her something because otherwise our dinner is going to get here way too late, which is no good. This is part, just make a choice, as they say. Oh, there we go. I don't want either of those. You sent 2 bad choices, unfortunately. I think we do Carl Strauss. I want to get those tacos again. Last time I did these, you guys had me get the carne asada tacos, which were delicious. Big fan of those. Have you had tacos El Gordo? I'm not sure. Full disclosure, I'm really not that into tacos. They're kind of annoying. The food is always fine, but I don't know why there are people that are like really into tacos, and that is just less so my vibe. I have no issue with tacos, but they're just not my vibe. But there's these carne asada tacos and then these chicken tacos, and I like both of those quite a lot. My favorite is like a carne asada burrito. Tacos El Gordo is a standout. Okay, let me see where they're at, and then I'll let you know if I've been there. Tacos El Gordo. Yeah, I've been to the one. Oh no. Oh no. I've not been there. Yeah, I've not been there. I don't go down to San Diego too much, like San Diego proper. But next time there's a car meet or something down there, I'll go grab one and try it. Always down to try. All right. So let's fast forward this week. We're at 21. I'm going to bring us back to like a Monday expiration. So that'll take us to like the 2nd of March. We'll fast forward a little bit extra time. Aviator Greek says, Jennifer Lopez says taco flavored kisses. Taco flavored kisses. For, what was that? For Ben, right? For Ben Affleck? I guess also for you. All right. So we need to go to the 24th. Where are our puts at? They're 318. We definitely need to go to the 24th. I would say the 25th. So here's what I'm thinking. And I'm trying to envision what my moves would be in this kind of move, trying to bar out knowing that it's the COVID drop. And what I notice from a standard technical analysis perspective is the moving averages were flattening up until this point. We had a downtick. We had a huge gap down. I might not do anything here because we're still above the point of control. I might have held out for a day. So anytime that there's a judgment call that I'm making, I'm always forcing myself into the less advantageous judgment call as a default. So what that means is, in reality, there's a chance I would have managed them here, but I'm going to definitely do something to manage them here. That would be without a doubt. And when I'm talking about them, it would be looking at the short call side of things. The short puts, we will take a look at those as well. The short puts are at 318, so we were still fine in here. There would have been nothing done on the put side here. So let's go to the 25th really quick, and let's see what the calls are doing. Because if I can get the calls down early for a decent amount of money, and there's a viable alternative, I very often will take that. So for the calls, we have the 21 Feb. I don't know how to do this with you guys being able to see the log and the platform. What do you guys want to see? Do you guys want to see the platform or the log? What's better for you? I have the 21 Feb. Oh no, the 20 March. 20 March 340s. Which we're going to have to update this so that we can get strikes. Yeah, 100% chance these would have been managed for sure. So these absolutely would have been managed the day before. There's no doubt in my mind. But again, going to penalize myself, and I'm going to pretend that we manage them now, the 25th. So the 25th, we're going to close these for 41 cents. And then the stock right now is at 323.49. And the reason why I'm doing this is because these went on the 21st, and a few days later, we're at nearly 80% profit capture. So unless I wasn't planning to offer anything else, I absolutely would have put these out. And there's another more important implication that goes on here. So we're on the 25th of Feb 20. The stock was, I already forgot because I'm dumb. 323.49. 323.49. Expiration, we'll take a look. Because the other thing I'm going to do here is we have 814 shares. We've only been selling 5. So what I do now is our basis is 326. Again, if I were actually trading the covered strangle here, I probably would have taken some of the position down. Not a lot, but some. And the reason is because we're now below the 50-day moving average. And if I can get out below the 50-day moving average for a profit, I almost always will take it to scale down the trade, not entirely. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just giving you the verbal on what I would do because that would impact this actually quite a lot. But pretending that I don't, and I'm just applying a more rote style strategy, what I would do now at least is sell more calls. So what I'll do is probably go out. I wouldn't want to go 50 days. I would probably pick something around here, assuming it's liquid enough. And these aren't super liquid, but they would be fine. And man, my nose is itchy. And the strike is, we have the 326s. We want to be above a 326. During a pullback like this, I typically know that there is a really good chance during this kind of style drop that you ain't going to see it again for a while. So I tend to get a little more aggressive. I don't want to be too aggressive. I'm not going to go into like a 40 delta, but I would be closer to a 30, 31 delta. And in this case, I would probably pick the 333s just because there's more liquidity here. So there's still a 28 delta, a little bit lighter, and I would do more of these. I would do at least 6. So that's what we'll plan for. So now we're going to go out to 31 March 20. We have the 333 calls. Delta is at 28. Premium is 248. And we would do 6 of these. So now we hang out. And what is our distance off of highs? So normally what I would do here, SPY current price is 323 in the example. And we would do SPY percent all-time highs. So for here, all-time highs probably would have been what we just posted there. So 339. So what I do in here is I keep a tracker because that's a big part of how I decide to scale in is distance off of all-time highs. So it would be 339. I'm just going to hard code it in and be lazy. It'd be 339 less whatever the current price is. We're like 5%. Not adding anything more yet. Too early. But this is a metric that we're going to monitor because this is how we're going to determine when we add more. But 5% off of all-time highs is a little too light. And I'll explain why. If I look at, I'm going to see if, let's see how well this can do for us. What's the GPT? Good. So what is the frequency that S&P 500 is within 5% of all-time high? So for those that don't know, the S&P 500 spends a lot of time near all-time highs. So 5% off of all-time highs is still a little bit early in terms of a drawdown. Now, because we started the overall position so light, meaning I think we were only 60% invested from the jump. Yeah, we're 59% invested. I might look to add a little bit, but so the S&P 500 spends essentially about 40% of its time within 5% of all-time highs. So a little early to add yet. So we will now fast forward time. We'll go to 3rd of March, one day before my birthday. The day of my birth. Okay, so there definitely would have been some management in here below the 200. So we need to go to this, the 27th. Because this is also where we would start adding some, without a doubt. Because we're only 60% invested below the 200-day. We have no additional short shares that we offered yet. We have nothing additional out. So this is where I would buy some shares for sure to take our utilization up closer to like 80%. So this is, we're at 305. How far are we from all-time highs? Yeah, 10%. So this is definitely time to add a bit. So now we need to say our starting amount was 886. Get rid of all this random math. 886, 850. And again, the reason why it's 886, 850 is because this is the equivalent of 50K in SCHD in terms of overall size. So Joe says 60% of the time would be under 5% from all-time highs. Would long leaps make sense to open at all-time highs and then close at 5% drop? That's a little too crude of a strategy in my opinion, because it's going to be based on a lot more than that. But I wouldn't base... Oh, I see. Leap puts. Sorry. Leap puts. My bad. Would long leap puts make sense to open at all-time highs then close at 5% drop? No, I absolutely would not do that. Because depending on the time frame that we're like, that was just a quick ask to ChatGPT. The constitution of that's actually a little bit different. It's way higher than that for recent years. I think that was looking at the past few decades. Yeah, exactly. So this says of the past several decades, because I've looked at this number before and I know that in general, it's much closer than that within the last like 15 years. So what is the frequency within the past 15 years? ChatGPT is doing the work for us. Shout out to ChatGPT. 82.35%. So that number is skewed a lot in the last 15 years. I've looked at this a lot because there's a lot we can learn from it. I'm going to pop the door for Thor. So yeah, definitely. So now that we're 10%, this definitely would be time to add. We have this right now, current utilization is 59%. So let's say that we want to add 59, 60. So at least another 25% here. And let's just make this so that we can do continual math off of this. Text. Oh, because there's 2%. 221. So now we need to add some shares. So now it's 27 Feb 20. And the stock is running at 305, we said? 305.59. So now the stock is at 305.59. This divided by this This is not a number. This is a count of shares, 725. So what I would do is I would take this share count and I would take the majority of it would be long shares. So like 400. And then the rest would be added on via short puts. So 305.59. So now that takes total share count to 1214, base is 319. We have 8 of the 318s, which those would have been managed in here somewhere for sure. But we'll take a look at them now and see what they're doing. So we have what expiration is that? 20 March. 318s. These are 70 delta. Yeah, these definitely would have been managed earlier than this, but that's okay. This is actually good timing because now we can use the additional size that we've unlocked from this. We have essentially a 3 lot that we could use. This should be 425, by the way, 425. And then we have 3 lots that we can use for the rest of those 300 shares. So we'll add a 3 lot to this and we'll use that to adjust the basis a little bit better. So now we sold these for 241, the 318s. We're going to close those for like 1645. So minus 1645. Stock at the exit is 305.60, 305.59. So the stock, here you go, is down about 8% from our entry. This is going to realize an $11,000 loss. So we take those there. And now we need to see where we can roll these to. So that was at 1645. So let's go out here to like 36 days, see where we can go for 1645-ish. We can definitely go to the 317s. We can't go to the 316s outright, but we can because we have a little more size we can add. Let's go out one more expiration to the 1720s. We can do the 315s, which is a great adjustment. Keep that at 1675. So here we can make the change. So we'll go out 50 days on these. So 305.59, 305.59, 305.59. And then the date is 27 Feb 20. Expiration cycle will be a little bit longer here, 17 April 20. 17 April 20. Strike is going to be the 314s. Delta 59. We're going to collect 1607. And then we're going to move from 8 to 11. So this will take in 17K, which is a pretty healthy premium over this. Might even split this up, to be honest. 9 of them is 14. We could even, yeah, I probably would do this. We'll keep it at 8. Oops. We'll keep this at 8. And then we will add a pretty aggressive delta. Let's see if it'll give us more choices. It does. That's great. So here we do like a 40 delta. I would probably go right below the put wall. So like the 299s for 973. So 299, which is a 39 delta. So the deltas get more aggressive the further off of highs we are. And that's just to capitalize on pricing potential. This is the entire point of trading an index ETF, is as long as I am moderately confident that at some point in the future, this is going to come back in value, these will pay. So I'll do 3 of those and then I'll take in 3 grand. And now we have 12. We need to add more calls. We can add them in the same expiration cycle for simplicity. So we'll do the 27 Feb. Then we have the 31 Marches that we have to manage as well. Let's take a look at those 31 Marches first, because they're probably almost ripe to take down. We have the 333s. Yeah, we would take those down. We have to open these up because they're so far gone. So those are going to come down for 42 cents. Minus 0.42. Stock again is at 305.59. So those short calls come down. One of the things that I want you to notice with the short calls is that the only thing they do is help. As long as we have enough patience and experience with how to manage these, the short calls just help. If you had long shares and you didn't do any of this other nonsense with the puts and all that stuff, the short calls have already given us $2,500. That's not offsetting the loss. It's not making it better, meaning fixing it, but is absolutely helping a little bit. So the whole point of the short calls here is just to amplify the position a bit. So these, we just pasted down there. We did, so we can kill those. And now these will move up to this spot. And now we'll figure out where we want to add more short calls. And I think we do it in the 17 April to keep everything together. And I think we do a slightly more aggressive delta, but not too much. Our basis is 319, so we can still get better than our basis, which is exactly what I would do. And maybe we do like the 321s or the 320s. I would prefer the 321s a little further out. These are still collecting 1%, so maybe these, the 322s, and get $3.40. So 322. The delta is a 27, I think. 26. 0.26. Premium is $3.46. Now we have 1,200 lots, so we would do at least 8. Probably a little higher. Probably 9 lots. And even that pause, I would do more than that normally. I would do probably 10 lots. But again, each point where I can make a decision, I'm purposely making a slightly less advantaged position for myself. Now, before we go forward, the next thing that happens here is if it crosses above the 200, we buy more shares. The reason why we buy more shares is because as it crosses up above the 200, that's when we might think a recovery from whatever it is might happen. And I genuinely don't know if it pops back up above it before it goes back below. I really don't remember exactly the path that it took. So with that, I will look to use at least another 10% of the money. I essentially would want to maintain the strategy to be something close to 90 to 95% utilized, especially when we're starting to get really low like this. Because again, I don't know that this is a global pandemic. I don't know that this isn't just some sort of big correction. Well, I guess I would know that it's a pandemic at this point because the news is talking about it, but I'm not trading this as if it's the event itself. We're trading this simply for the move that it provides us to tinker through. So now let's go a week to March. See what it does. Okay. So we had a dip below our strike for sure, the 299s. So, and that would have happened here and here. So again, not knowing what it's going to do, I probably, well, hold on, 17 April, how far is that? 17 April's 46 days to go. What do the 299s look like? They're at the money, 50 delta. What are they at now? 13. We got them for 9. That's a tough one. My instincts say that I probably would have rolled here, but I'll just let it go. And then let's take a look at the calls though. In 17 April, we have the 322s for $1.52. This is an interesting choice now. So here is where I probably would take some of the trade down, not all of it. I would take some of the trade down, and then I would start considering selling calls below my basis. But any calls that are sold below my basis are at a much lower amount, a very low amount. And that's to capture a little extra premium, but not looking to actually unwind the trade. So what I would do here is I might do that with 3 of them. So I'm just splitting this because I'm going to pretend that I'm going to close 3 at $1.56. The stock is now at 296. These formulas are broken. Why are they broken? Yeah, okay, that's so this will come down. That one will stay. And now, how far are we off of highs at 296? 296. 12%. It's a little too high to add more. If this is down like 15%, I would take our utilization up more. So this is where I probably would add more short puts, where if I got assigned, it would be assigned at a 15-point drop. So what would that be, like 290? Yeah, so 288s. 288s. So what that means is I'm going to sell 288 puts here. And the reason why I'm selling 288 puts is because I would want to add more utilization if we're 15% off of all-time highs. Not much, but I would want to add some because I would look to roll those puts a little bit. So this is 17 April. Oh no, 2 March. 2 March 20. We are at 296. We're going to go to 17 April 20s. And we're going to look for the 288s, which are a 37 delta. That's actually too high. So I would go even further below those. I would take us to like these 280s. That's a little too low because I do want to try to get assigned on these. So these would go to the 285s for 955. So 285, which are a 34 delta. And then for these, we get 955. And then let's see what we can, a 2 lot. That takes us right up to like 90%, which is perfect. And we need to sell more short calls now. And again, these are going to go below my basis. I would not traipse within a 30 delta. I would leave that alone for sure. So I'm adding those. The strike for those would be 312, which is below our basis by $5. The reason why that's such an important note is I do not want to get assigned there for 452. And I would just do 3. The reason why I'm only doing 3 is because if I got caught, meaning if I got stuck, I don't want to get stuck. And what that means is I don't want to get stuck potentially unwinding a bunch, because the other thing I do here to protect myself is I set an alert at like 311. So at 311, if we hit 311, I buy, what is this, 300 shares, which as long as that fits into the overall risk profile, I would buy the shares before we get through that strike to make sure that they're still covered at a better basis. And then I can do something like LIFO, last in, first out, to make sure that the accounting is lined up. So we're all good here. Now we fast forward time. and we are off a cliff. So now we're at 273.5. This is where it gets really interesting because I've purposefully let the 314s just sit. There's no way that I would have let those 314s sit through this. On the 4th of March, there's a near certainty that I would have taken those 314s down. I view these moves as gifts to get more resensitized, and I'll show you what that means. So we had the 314s we had an 8 lot at 1607. So let's see what this looked like over the course of the day. Joe says, I'd sell call further out. You mean further out of the money or further out in time? Wow, this made that rally towards the end of the day, didn't it? That's crazy. Further out in time. Yeah, I wouldn't do that because you start to run out of expiration liquidity, which I wouldn't want to do. So let's take a look at these 17 April. Oh, there's still 44 days though. So we'll see if there's even anything we could have done. I forgot that these are so far out in time. And we have the 314s. Yeah, so 100% chance these get managed. So the reason why it's a 100% chance that these get managed is because if we take a look at, I rolled them they came out at 1607 for the 314s. Right now they're at like 1255. So I can take these in and then I can move them out again to an improved strike. And what I might do in this scenario is look at some of the others and see if I can combine them into this trade to get a better overall basis adjustment. So like let's see what the 299s are running for right now. The 299s are like 762. I probably wouldn't touch those. And then the 296s, those are at 6 and change. Those I probably would take because I would put those in with this and I would make a 10 lot. So here's how that would look. The 314s, these come down at 1255. Stock right now is 311.30. This is when we use an accommodating move in our favor to make an adjustment. And these don't always come online. Like you don't always get a chance to grab these. And that's why I know in this scenario, there's a 100% chance that I would take the trade off. Oh, I forgot. These are the 285s. What are the 285s trading for? 477. Yeah, those definitely come down. All right, so this will be minus 477. And then 311.3. So now we have a 10 lot we can play with, which will be important because we're going to want to track this. We have this and this. We have a 10 lot that we can use. So it's 4 March 20. Stock is at 311.3. 17 April is still 44 days. Is there anything that's like 60? There's not. So we would stay in 17 April. So 17 April. And now we need to look at a strike where we get 1255. We need to overcome 7460. We have a 10 lot to do it. So that can put us all the way out here. So we can move a 10 lot like the 300s, which would give us 786. which would give us a net credit here. So I think that's our move. 300. Delta is 0.34. Premium is 786. We're now going to run a 10. That 10 will overcome this loss. Any questions on that? So what I'm doing is kind of like a composite roll. I'm not getting overly focused or fixated on collecting a specific credit for a specific strike. I'm paying close attention to the total premiums moving in and out. And this is how I'm able to make really aggressive basis adjustments, because I used an option that was out at 285. I managed that for a profit. I'm moving this strike up massively by 15 points, but it's allowing me to move this strike down by 14 points and pick a better spot. So I've just used that to regain spot price sensitivity in its entirety. And now we're at 311. So we do nothing. And we are 88% utilized. We actually took a little bit of utilization off. So now let us fast forward a week and we're at 311. And our calls are at 312. So let's see. We sold those 312s for 452. They're running for 977. I would probably let these go another day. And see how they behaved. So it looks like it moves away from us. What I was doing is fast forwarding one day. If they started falling at the money, being 1 or 2 strikes in the money, then I would have either rolled them or bought shares. Given the news and knowing what's going on in the world right now, I wouldn't be overly inclined to buy a bunch of shares. This is 322, 346. So those essentially leave those alone. And the 312s, fuck. See, that's unfortunate. And that's just a product of not drastically overfitting. But what I would have loved to have done is take these down and move them out to this, because these are now paying pretty well. But can't pick like that. It is what it is. The 300s are now at the money. They've doubled. So there's kind of just stuck on those. And then the 299s, which we could have taken down, but again, in the scenario, we didn't. And let's see, one more. We'll go one more. We'll go to the 9th and we'll take a pause here. And then we'll wrap up. I'm actually going to do a little bit of scanning and stuff just because I need to run through some things. But I'll wrap us up here. So whatever this is where we'll leave off. These are at 277.31. So our 322s are going to be like super cheap. Yeah. So these would be taken off. And at 277, we're at 15%. So I would absolutely use more money here, but I'll go through the whole scenario when we come back. So this will be 9 March 2020. Need to adjust position for the day. We'll leave that there. Cool. All right, gang. That wraps me up for the evening. Feel free to hop off. And then for anybody that wants to hang out, I'm just going to run through a bunch of alerts and scans and stuff just to try to look for some ideas. I took a series of stuff down today, so I'm trying to get some more trades out. I don't really have enough total risk out. So that's the game plan now. Let's come out of here. And first thing is first. Let's look through. So discretionary is still doing well. Utilities is getting killed. Real estate is rolling over. Builders is starting to break out to the downside. Comms are still good. Energy is rolling over. Energy kind of looks interesting for downside continuation of some sort. Take a look within energy. Yeah, I like this to the down. So this will get a stop at like 16. Yeah, okay. So we'll add this. This will be and then another that I was looking at earlier. Yeah, no good here. I was originally looking at a Strangle in there, but I opted out of it. Okay. Let's run through all these. So what I'm doing is I get a bunch of email alerts from different places. So I'm clicking through the email alerts, looking for stuff that interests me. Right now I'm looking through a consolidation scan, which I actually need to update. Let's take a look at any of these. No. I don't even know where this one comes from. Get rid of this one. Oh, I see it now. Stock. Week. Better. So this is looking at some consolidation stuff. Oh wait, do I have optionable stuff in here? Last price has options. Okay, cool. This one's good. All right, let's see what we got. AIV. ADR is a little bit light, a little bit too choppy. No good. Elliott. One's hanging near high. Good rate. Don't fully love that. No. CD in it. Nope. 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 Maybe. Yes. Nope. The fuck is this? No. 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 Nope. 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 And nope. Okay, that's one down. Nothing from there sticks out. Oh, let's take a look. Ah. Pharmaceuticals I don't love. This will get some alerts. Big call skew. Yeah, okay, this looks good. DLPT. Interesting. No. Fuck no. Damn it. This one is already. And then VM. Another one. Another one. Wait. Still have a bunch to go through, but I'm gonna go eat dinner because I just got here. And then I'm gonna hop back on and keep running through it. So always fun to hang out as always. If you guys need anything, let me know. Thanks for hanging out beyond the live stream for those that felt like it. Be an outlier. I'll see y'all later.